Welcome to another battle report, folks, and to our first game of 2021. We can say bye-bye to 2020. That wasn't much of a year. Don't know what 2021 is going to hold. We're still playing this game at a distance, so to speak. Brian's controlling things from his side remotely, as we've been doing. So there's no change in that respect. But we've got to hope second half of the year we can actually get some proper gaming done in our dedicated gaming space now. We'll still be playing at Brian's as we can. He's got some really nice terrain, but we've got a space here that I somehow managed to squeeze into my man cave. I don't know how. It moves back and forward on wheels, which makes it practical to use it, and there'll be a lot less clutter in the background when we're filming the games, taking pictures and such likes, so hopefully make the videos a bit more attractive visually. So we're playing the desert, as you can probably tell. The reason for that being that we're waiting on the German Bagration book to come out so that we can do some Bagration battles, get some late war Eastern Front games on the go. Until then, we're going to fill in with our desert stuff, which, to be honest, has been a bit neglected over the year. So we thought we'll get a few games in, try a few different lists as we have been doing with the Eastern Front, try them in similar kind of missions, so you can see what mid-war Germans are like up against mid-war Brits. Brian's got the mid-war Americans, so we're not seeing them, unfortunately. Anyway, let's go over to the game. I'll start off by showing you the lists and going over the mission. So we are using Africa Corps and Armoured Fist. Let's have a look at the German list first of all. Brian is going to go Germans. He's been playing Germans, he's familiar with them, which is probably the better idea with the remote playing that we're doing. So he's got just one formation here, right? And this here is the formation. 2 Africa Corps rifle platoons and 3 Pak 38s. Everything else is in support. It would have been possible to get a Panzer III company together, but it would have meant dropping something else. So Brian's decided just to be careful with these guys, keep them alive, and then build up the support as much as possible. Now, so what we got, so the rifle platoons don't have the mortar. Mortars are 2 points, and for 2 points you can get 3 armoured cars. So you can get 2 individual mortars or all those armoured cars. So some people like to have lots of the templates with individual mortars. They feel it's a cheap kind of artillery, and maybe it is, but artillery, like to our mind, artillery is attritional in nature anyway. So if you're having to reroll hits, then you're really just looking for the odd lucky thing that might come along in the game, rather than something which is you can be relatively sure of the results. So 3 Pak 38s. Right, they've got the heavy machine gun and the anti-tank rifle, the SPZ, BZ, blah blah blah. 3 Pak 38s as well. And for extra anti-tank, 4 Marders. So that's lots of anti-tank 12. And 2 platoons, we're going to be using these as all short-barreled 50s. So they're 20 points each. A nice neat split as far as reserves go as well. And as I said before, Brian's got 2 armoured car platoons. 2 of these have been upgraded with the SPZB, blah, 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 blah. Anti-tank rifle, as you can see. And then, not looking very deserty, but really needed in this game for some decent artillery, is a platoon of 4 10.5 centimetres. So there you go, 100 points. It's quite a lot, to be honest, for 100 points. A lot of it's quite squishy, but it's all highly skilled. It's all careful, so it's a good chance you can do a bit of damage. And it's a good split as well, in that everything's going to be on the table apart from the tanks at the start of the game. We'll go over the mission in a minute. So, with the Brits, what I've done is I've taken two formations. I've got an infantry formation first of all, which is two of the smaller infantry platoons. Now they've got 4 bases, command, light mortar, anti-tank rifle, which is a bit of a pea shooter in this game. It could annoy the armoured cars, but that's about it. 4 mortars and 3 6-pounders. Now they're supported by 4 25-pounders. So the 25-pounders are support for the infantry company. Now the tank formation has got the HQ of 2 2-pounders and 2 CS, that's close support. And to help you and to help me and my opponents during the game, the 2-pounders are all got green swatches of camo, the CSs have got nothing, and then the 6-pounders have got brown swatches. So you can see there's 3 platoons of 2 6-pounders and 1 2-pounder in each platoon, and then a platoon of Grants, and that's all one formation. Very fragile, but if they get in a position to unleash those 6-pounders, they could shoot up anything in Brian's list and do a bit of damage. And they're supported by 2 armoured car platoons. It's the Humbers and the Daimlers. The Humblers have got those weird cross between anti-tank and machine gun. Don't know how they describe it, but it's basically anti-tank 5 compared to anti-tank 7 with the 2-pounders and the Daimlers, but the Daimlers are overworked. Incidentally, the 6-pounders are overworked as well. You know, I'm thinking when I put a list of Crusaders together, do I just accept the fact they're really, really quick and get around the side of things? So a 2-pounder is good enough for that, and a 2-pounder isn't overworked. So I don't know. All round the 6-pounders are probably better because you may actually have to use these in defence where they're just sitting static and they're ready to fire out anti-tank 9 instead of anti-tank 7. You know, anti-tank 7 doesn't do anything really to the front of Panzer 3s and Panzer 4s, but anti-tank 9 will. So that's just a thought, but I'm going to use them as they're set up just now. One other point, the infantry platoons are shorter. That anti-tank gun platoon's 3 instead of 4 because there's a lot over here. And by shortening things up, I could get 2 scout platoons. And there I think are really important when you're attacking. You can push into areas and push back ambushes or flush out ambushes. You know, you might lose your armoured cars, but keep your tanks. And I've got 2 sources of smoke as well, which I'm probably going to need. And these guys, they are quick. They absolutely fly up the table. So there's the lists. Now the mission is going to be nice and simple, no retreat. We're imagining this is a breakthrough attempt at the main line of defence at Alamein. So the Germans will be dug in with minefields, and the Brits are just going to have to try and hammer their way through. The Germans bringing up the tanks to try and block off the attack. So a nice familiar mission for everybody, but it will give us a chance to familiarise ourselves with the abilities and the limitations of these desert lists. So we'll come back after deployment. That's deployment finished. One thing I should say, by the way, about the lists is they're actually 99 points each. They would just came up a little bit shy of being able to get an OP for each list. So that will present a few issues for the for spotting in this game. The company commanders, I think, will have to do a bit of spotting. So deployment, first of all, Brian placed an objective marker there. I placed one here. Then, being quite an exposed position, Brian's put 3 minefields across there, and then 1 to block that road, so that assaulting with tanks over these walls will become an issue. He's got his Pack 38s in ambush, the Marders in a good shoot and scoot position. One infantry platoon here, backed up by 3 armoured cars. Another infantry platoon over there with the same support. Company command's a bit out of the way, but there's a lack of observer, and you know it's finding a good place down low. It's not going to be easy because of that wood and maybe that ridge. So the company command's up there. He can move to join the infantry as required, and then the artillery is back here. And then myself, I have, ranged in markers, by the way, and forgot to mention that. I've got both my ranged in markers over there. In fact, that's a bit daft. I'm going to change one of them. Anyway, got a big wodge of tanks over there with a platoon of mortars. 6-pounders are going to have to work hard to get into the game. 25-pounders, platoon of infantry, Brian's ranged in marker there. Hammer cars, company command, and another platoon of infantry. So I'm spread right across the board, but I can't just stick everything on one side, partly because, I mean, if the tanks would have to go first, really, and that would mean the infantry would be so far back, so I'm going to go for a two-pronged attack. I'm going to move this. This is a 25-pounder, ranged in. I'm going to put it there. And you'll see me, what I use them for. Right, so, incidentally, the yellow dice is Defender's Deployment Zone, the red dice Objective Deployment Zone, just so you know. So, we'll come back at the end of my British turn 1. British turn 1. So, movement first of all. The infantry moved up into cover. The cross-country dashed. These are hiding behind that broken ground for some concealment. These guys are into the wood. The company command is with these guys. The armoured cars also moved up, doing a dash, and stayed behind the cover again. Take advantage of that going to ground. Scout rule. The 6-pounders moved up and managed to follow me, and then the tanks just did a dash. All of them dashed up, and I used the 25-pounders ranged in marker to lay a smoke screen. Obviously not going to be a lot of surprises there, folks, but that gets him up in a very threatening position for these guys. So that's it really. There's not really any other shooting. Everybody moved or wanted to stay, gone to ground. Why, these guys, he tried to follow me and he went, nah, we'll catch you later. So there's no shooting apart from the bombardments. The mortars are not going to fire. They're going to keep their bombardment because it really depends on what happens next turn with Brian's reserves. So over to Germans for their turn 1. German turn 1. So they didn't pop their ambush. Brian wasn't sure which way I was going to go, so he's hedging his bets. But he did get reserves, and he brought them in here. He dashed on up to here, and the Marders dashed on back to here. He's moved the armoured cars up because my little Crusaders are quite vulnerable to them. These other armoured cars edged around a bit, worried about getting shot at from the side, but not wanting to go too far out. And then as far as shooting goes, nothing over on the far side. The artillery tried to range in here. They could have ranged in at the back, got less guys, and had an easier range in, but he really wants to clobber me when I'm in the cover, which would be good, but he never rolled above a 3. And then in shooting, the anti-tank rifle missed, but the heavy machine gun got 2 hits and killed the British anti-tank rifle. And that was it for shooting. So over to the Brits for their turn 2. British turn 2. So these guys have moved behind a hill. Gets me closer to some flanking shots. I could have got around a couple of platoons around the hill and got some frontal shots, but most of my guys would have been on a 5 to hit for the 6-pounders. So I'm going to take advantage of the hill to bunch up and then see what I can do. I've also moved the Grants into a good position. The other registered marker's not being used, I'm saving that. That's the 25-pounders. The mortars moved up. The guns moved up. Try to follow me, but they weren't having it. But they're getting up where they can start to think about supporting the tanks. Infantry moved up. Armoured cars, tactical move. The infantry here didn't unpin even with the company command near them, but company command and infantry managed to dig in at least. So as far as shooting goes, the armoured cars managed to kill heavy machine gun. They were aiming at this guy, but they managed to get a heavy machine gun. The infantry joined in. There was enough to pin these guys, but there was no more casualties. Over here, because they tactically moved, they were too close to consider a dash, but they fired at this anti-tank rifle, didn't get any hits. So that was it really for shooting over there. The mortars, as I said, have moved up. They've only got a 32-inch range, which isn't very good, so they're going to have to keep moving up. But I'm getting closer. Brian will get more reserves. I've got 2 sources of smoke left. We'll see if I can get in about them and get a big scramash on the go. German turn 2, no reserves, but who needs reserves? Popped an ambush. He decided he's going to get me between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. Armoured cars moved out. Marders cautiously moved up. Panzer IIIs moved up, armoured cars moved out. The infantry beside the Palm Grove unpinned. So what happened there? Just about everything that could have gone right went right there for Brian. It's absolutely smashed to bits. The ambush destroyed the foremost platoon of Crusaders. The Panzer IIIs absolutely clobbered them, even though it was forced to hit, but they only bailed 2, but killed 1, but only bailed 2. The armoured cars even managed to kill a Crusader. Then over here, 2 Humbers fell to armoured cars and anti-tank rifles. Then the artillery ranged in over there, killed a mortar and an anti-tank gun. So, not bad. Not bad at all. I'm going to have to see what I can do. These guys just die so quick. You get so many of them, but they just die so quick. Let's see what I can do in my third turn. British turn 3. So what happened there? First of all, motivations. These guys unpinned. He stayed. Those guys bailed back in. Anti-tank guns and mortars, they also unpinned. So movement, I decided just to stay put. I had targets, so get my full rate of fire, not worry about my overworked rule on my 6-pounders. These infantry moved up. One of the demos had to move. The company commands moved over to join that side of the assault. These guys stayed put. And then as far as firing goes, The rifleman managed to kill the anti-tank rifle, which is probably quite handy. Then over here, Daimlers and a Humber between them killed 2 armoured cars. The surviving CS put in a very short smoke bombardment, and then the 25 pounders managed to range in using the company commander for the tanks. Second attempt didn't hit anybody under the template, but they're there now. And then other shooting was effective but ineffective. 2 tanks destroyed, 2 bailed, and those were failed firepowers to kill, as opposed to matched saves. And then here, all failed saves, only 1 killed, 2 bailed. So they've got a good chance of getting back in and dishing out some more damage, and maybe shooting and scooting away. So a bit of damage done back, but still very much in the balance, and Brian will get another platoon of tanks in next turn. So German turn 3, so the last reserves arrived and they came up through here. The anti-tank guns, 2 of them shimmied over. They've got a tactical move of 4, they're quite mobile. As far as motivations go, the survivor ran away there. 1 armoured car got back in but then ran away, that was destroyed. 1 of these got back in but they then passed their motivation, so they've stayed. And I think that was about it. So as far as shooting goes, the Marders moved up. 2 fired at the Grants, 2 at the HQ. 1 Grant was hammered, smashed to bits. 1 destroyed, 1 bailed. That then got double bailed by the anti-tank gun that could fire up that way, but stayed around. The rest of the firing, 2 tanks destroyed out of this platoon, 1 bailed out of that platoon. That was a combination of this guy in the end plus the reserves. The Pack 38s fired up the road at the Grants and missed. So, and the artillery killed another anti-tank gun and another mortar, so they're doing a lot of damage. So there's not a lot of tanks left here. 1 will be doing a check. There's not a lot left. And there's a hell of a lot of German tanks left. So I'll have to see if I can do anything with that objective perhaps. Right, that's it for German turn 3. British turn 4. So, didn't go well. Got myself in a good position for an assault. Moved all my armoured cars into position to provide enough hits to pin them, but all the shooting from all those guys only ended up with 4 hits. When the assault went in, they were hammered with counterfire. They took 6 hits in counterfire. So that stopped the assault and 2 got killed. Over here, let me think now. 2 tanks didn't get back in. The 1 tank that was on a test, a Crusader 3, stayed. So what I did here was I thought, sod it, I'm going to move around here and try and clobber these guys. Didn't go well. Only got 2 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots, 2 hits. The surviving, which stayed, surviving 6 pounder also fired and missed. So not very good. Brian's got a good chance to effectively destroy my tanks next turn. Infantry, well, they might be able to do something, but he's got plenty of stuff. Let's see if Brian can finish me off, or if I get a lucky turn, you never know. German turn 4. Lady Luck didn't do any favours for Brian in that turn, so let's see. First of all, motivations. Panzerfried didn't get back in again, and he failed his last stand. So those two surviving tanks, one unbailed, one bailed, were just legged or destroyed. The Marder didn't get back in. So in terms of movement, he moved his Panzer IIIs over to get shots into the rear of the Grants. These stayed put because they had line of sight onto the Crusaders. This one had line of sight onto bailed Crusaders. So as far as shooting goes, he didn't have a lot of luck. Hit a lot of stuff, but not a lot of luck. You can see this surviving tank from one platoon destroyed, and then this is the survivors of another platoon, both bailed, one of them multiple bailed. There wasn't a lot of hits, to be honest. Most of the damage was done by them. Everyone else, I mean, these guys, he missed. The luck wasn't really on his side, and when he did hit, I managed to save, and over there he just missed. Now the artillery ranged in over here, hit the infantry, killed a base, and hit the wee Daimler armoured car, and bailed it. Failed to save, but he managed to bail it. So I've still got some stuff alive, but it's not a lot, and he's got a hell of a lot of tanks over here. So over to my turn 5. British turn 5. So in this turn, first of all, motivations. 6 pounder stayed, and it's unpinned. The mortar's unpinned. The CS rebounded. The Crusader 3 didn't. The 2 Crusaders over there did. The infantry in the Pangrove did. The other infantry didn't unpin. The wee Daimler armoured car got back in. Lots of motivations. So as far as movement goes, these guys moved up away from the Marders, thinking I'll be able to kill the Marders with 3 Crusaders to get shots on here, but they missed. The Crusaders only managed to kill and bail. It's getting there, but there's still one Marder potentially left alive. The mortars ranged in over here. The 25 pounders ranged in over here. They did it on the 3rd attempt, didn't cause any casualties. 2nd attempt didn't cause any casualties. But over here, I managed to get the assault in just to no more. 4 hits on the way in to counterfire, lost 1 base, and then when I got in, I killed 2 bases. There should be 2 wound markers there, but then Brian failed his motivation to break off, and I started within 4 inches of the objective, so that's enough to win the game that turn, because I've started within 4 but ended within 4 with no contesting enemy bases. So there you go, it was the wee infantry guys that actually won the day. Brian was thinking about leaving those tanks to their own devices for a bit at least, and bringing those Panzer IIIs from the position here over to here. That they might have got more shots in counterfire. I'm not sure. He also thought about moving these infantry up the road towards that objective. Once again, probably would have resulted in more counterfire. Maybe not. I may also have done things to negate that with my artillery and such like, if he chose to do so. But just the infantry platoon won in the end. They just managed to get the assault in. If Brian had passed his motivation and forced me to break off, he would have been able to get reinforcements up there, potentially, especially if I was still pinned here. So it could have gone either way. But as you can see, guys, it's fairly typical for British tank lists. They've got, let me think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks operational out of a starting 9, 13, 17. So they took quite a hammering. I suppose they did destroy, let's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 completely destroyed. And the gems lost 7, so I suppose it wasn't actually all that bad in the end, just because of the weak frontal armour of Mardos, I think. But there you go, guys. A nice start to a few desert games. We'll see if we can change the lists up and keep the games varied. Maybe something a bit more mobile next turn, next game, sorry. And there you go. Let me know what you think about the new setup here, guys. I'm thinking I need to do something about lighting. It's bright, but it's all coming from one direction. But give your feedback. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you on the next one.